cold, hard cash. Whether it jingles in our pockets or folds in our wallets, it flows by the billions from government agencies that have mastered the craft of making it, empowering consumers and confounding counterfeiters. The result of time-honored technology, painstaking artistry, and precision automation. Now, money on Modern Marvels. Some of us might have doubts about how wisely the American government spends money, but you can be certain it's well equipped to create it. The Bureau of Engraving and Printing's facilities in Washington, D.C. and Fort Worth, Texas, churn out 35 million banknotes every day, with a face value of about $635 million.
We have to produce billions and billions and billions of this product. It has to be easily recognizable. It has to be consistent billions and billions of times, but it also has to be exceedingly difficult for someone else to produce. That, to me, is a challenge.
The BEP, like its sister agency, the U.S. Mint, relies on an elite staff of engravers to craft its master dies.
The art of engraving itself hasn't changed much. The tools are very similar to what they were 400 years ago. The primary engraving tool is a Buren engraver. It's just it's a straight steel shaft that's polished on two sides with a bevel on the end of it. And you just put it in a small holder and push with the palm of your hand through the metal, and it cuts a tiny little curl out at a time. You can control the depth and width of the line with astonishing accuracy.
And you're doing this pretty much in miniature version, and you're doing this backwards in reverse. And the fascinating thing is, if you make a big mistake, 9 months of work will go down the drain in just one cut.
Making a mistake in an original die is a tragedy. I would have to fix that by using a scraper. I would have to hollow it out in that area until I made a smooth little depression. Then take the engraving die, flip it over, hammer the back of it so that it would raise a bump on the surface. I would then take a series of little honing stones over the top of the surface and smooth it back and forth until it was absolutely flat. Then take burnishing tools to repolish the area, then mark it back in and recut it accurately. You end up destroying a good deal of work around the error.
Once completed successfully, however, a skilled engraver's handiwork is a banknote's first line of defense against counterfeiters.
If I were to ask any one of my banknote engravers to engrave the very same design, exactly the same, twice, that person can't do it because of the subtle human nature of designing. The human aspect of engraving a banknote is unique to that individual process and that unique to that time. That exacting, detailed 19th century craftsmanship is the cornerstone of how we build our counterfeiting deterrent strategy.
First, printers applied ink to a metal die. The ink filled the tiny recessed lines and dots of the engraved image, which was carved in reverse. Subsequent steps removed the excess ink from the die's surface.
I'm going to take a piece of what they call crinoline or crinoline, and what you want to do here is just barely go over the surface, and it's going to take the heaviest part of the excess of that ink away.
After covering his hand in talcum powder, the printer then buffed away whatever traces of ink remained.
As you can see, I'm not actually taking the ink out of the engraving, it's just polishing the surface. So if you notice, all of the ink that's left is in the engraving. The rest of it's on my hand.
The inked die was then ready for the press that would print the banknote. The Treasury's earliest models were known as spider presses because of their long radial handles. They employed a method of printing called intaglio.
And intaglio basically means beneath the surface. It is where you press the image into the substrate, in this case the paper.
An intaglio press draws the blank paper, positioned atop the engraving, beneath its drum. This forces the paper into the die's finely recessed lines to absorb the ink. The resulting banknote features a subtle three-dimensional effect. The surface of the note is slightly raised.
If you pass your hand on any object that's intaglio printed, you will be able to feel differences and ridges, and that adds to the distinctiveness of currency.
Until 1929, federal banknotes were a half-inch wider and nearly an inch and a half longer than today's. Designing a smaller note enabled more notes to be printed for every turn of the press. The dimensions of our bills haven't changed in 3/4 of a century, but virtually everything else about them has. Making the new generation of currency combines old-school craftsmanship and cutting-edge technology.